Hello, and welcome to the Empowerography Podcast. This is a platform created for women's voices to be heard and a place to share their stories, journeys, and successes with the world for the purpose of helping other women who might be on similar journeys. We are empowering women one episode at a time. I'm your host, Brad Walsh, so kick back, grab one of your favorite beverages, and enjoy the stories. You've got a story to share, a message to inspire, and a passion ready to ignite. But where do you start? The world is waiting for your voice. With From Idea to Implementation, Start Your Own Podcast, you'll get the roadmap to turn your vision into reality. This isn't just a course, it's your launching pad. Step by step, we'll break down the process from defining your purpose to recording your first episode so you can finally share your voice with confidence. Stop overthinking it and start doing it. Your voice has the power to connect and lead. Are you ready to use it? Join the waitlist today. Your podcast journey starts now. The world is waiting. You can find the link to sign up for the waitlist in the show notes. We'll see you soon. Hello there, Brad Walsh here, your host of the Empowerography Podcast, a platform that was created to help elevate and amplify the voices of women through sharing their stories. Today, my guest is Angela Doyle Stuart. She is a broadcast journalist, a best-selling author, a psychotherapist, an advocate and activist, an inspirational speaker, and also part of the advocacy group SAVE. Welcome, Angela. I am so excited and happy to have you here. How are you doing today?
I'm great, Brad, and thank you so much for having me. It's a real honor for me to be part of your podcast, and I'm absolutely delighted to be part of it.
I am thrilled to have you here. We've been talking about doing this for quite a while now, so it's nice to finally have you here in the space and ready to jump in and share all about the beautiful light you put out into the world through the work you do, your story, your journey. So with that being said, let's jump right in and get started because I am so excited to have you here.
Me too.
I would love to know what inspired your journey, first of all, into broadcast journalism, and how long have you been working as a broadcast journalist?
Gosh, I'm going to be telling my age now. If I go into too many details, I'm joking. I don't mind. I love the aging process. Just to be clear on that, it's a privilege. Over 20 years I've been in, not just broadcasting, but working in the media itself, working as a journalist. Started out working in TV for a number of years with our main broadcaster here in Ireland. It's called RTE, so Radio Television. And I would have worked in a number of shows there and absolutely loved it. It was a great place to work and it was a great experience for me. And then I wanted to come closer to home. So for me, it meant going into work in a number of publications in roles of editor or journalist, and also then moving into radio and working with the main broadcasting radio station in my region, which has been absolutely fantastic. And I love it and I enjoy it. I think for me, it started when I was in primary school. So in Ireland, primary school is possibly from about 4 years of age up until 12. And when I was about 9 or 10, my cousin said to me that her sister was going to be a journalist. And at this stage, I used to write all the time. I'd have a little notebook and I'd be writing my poetry and my movie scripts and just everything and songs. I loved writing. And my cousin said to me that her sister was going to be a journalist, but I'd never heard of what a journalist was at this stage. And I was like, what's a journalist? Yep. And she explained it to me. And then I said, that's what I want to be. That's what I've been looking for. And then she said, you're just copying. And I was like, I'm not copying. That's exactly what I've been looking for. I want to be. That's what I want to be. I just didn't know what it was called. And I remember telling my school principal at the time, George, Mr. Darcy, a lovely man who won't mind me mentioning his name. He recently took part in a documentary that we made for my sister Lisa. He's an incredible person and has always been a great champion of mine. And I remember telling him this when he came around and asked us all what we were going to be. And I said, I'm going to climb the highest mountain. And I didn't know I wouldn't physically do it, but metaphorically, I certainly have. And I was going to be a journalist.
Yes.
And he said to me years later, he said, I remember you saying exactly that. And look at you, you did fulfill those dreams of yours. And he was wonderful. So that's where it started. And then in secondary school, my career guidance tried to talk me out of it. She said, I actually think you'd be a wonderful therapist. And I was 17 at the time. And of course, being so young, I said, no way, I'm not going to be a therapist. I'm not going to sit there and listen to people tell me their problems. Are you kidding me? And she goes, I really think you do that already with your friends, and your people say that you're a really good friend to them and you really help them. And I've seen it myself. And she's amazing. And I said to her, no, I'm going to be a journalist. But then I met her recently and I pulled her aside and I said, can you believe 20 years on, I finally have taken your advice and I'm qualifying as a therapist. And she said, I just knew it. It just took you some time to speak for yourself. Yeah. So one way I wanted to combine both of them and do my part in the world. And I think therapy allows me to do that. And also journalism.
Absolutely. For sure. Amazing. I love that. Okay. Now, I want to dive a little bit into the psychotherapy work. You had mentioned that that was not something that you wanted to do, and then you ended up veering down that path. So what was the catalyst for that shift for you?
My own personal journey, having experienced therapy for myself over the years, I would have engaged with therapy, met with different therapists for different losses I had experienced, and each served a wonderful purpose for me and brought me on a different journey. And it was a number of years ago when I realized how much therapy actually worked and how beneficial it was to me. And then I thought, wow, this does make a difference. And then it hit me that I too wanted to do this. I wanted to actually almost pay it forward and help other people. And I felt I could do that. And because I could see the difference it made in my life, and I have to feel it to believe it. And when I could sense that it made such a difference, then I thought, this is something that I should be doing. This is actually what can make a difference. I want to leave a mark on this world. And I feel by helping even one person, then that's me making a mark on this world. And the way I could do that is through psychotherapy.
I love that. And as your teacher stated, you're doing it anyways. You were always doing it because of who you are as a person, who you are as a friend, a family member. It's inherently, it's just in you. So I guess it was just that natural progression. Like your teacher said, it just took you the time to get there and realize that, wait a minute, yeah, this is for me.
And I had a lot of growing to do. And I think when you're younger, the thoughts of it, it's a big undertaking. It's a big responsibility. You want to help other people, but I wasn't mature enough, I felt at that time. Whereas now I have, but also life experiences have allowed me to be able to sit in that space with people and to be ready for it.
I love it. What have you learned about the human condition through your work as a psychotherapist that you believe that the world desperately needs to hear?
I think people are very anxious. I think we live in a very fast-paced world and there's a lot of anxiety. And as a result of that, I think people don't know that they can slow down and that they can take stock. And I think for me personally, I am actually being interrupted, Brad. I am so sorry. Somebody,
okay.
And
okay.
I do apologize.
That's okay.
This is real life, as you know, I'm in Ireland.
Yes.
My lovely son, Lucas, wants to come and say hello. So Mammy, I'm so sorry, Fran. This wasn't going to happen. We have strict guidelines not to interrupt, but I am not being interrupted, and I don't know what he needs. Can we pause for 1 second? Is that possible? I'm so sorry.
Yes,
One second.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. No problem.
Okay, Brad, I'm so sorry.
That's okay. No problem.
I'm so sorry. Lucas is very attached to me, and I do apologize. He just needed some Mammy time, just connection, and there should be no more interruptions.
No problem. Do you want me to ask the question over again?
Yes, please. I'm so sorry because I was being distracted.
No, that's okay. I'm just going to make a note here.
Sorry.
That's okay. No problem. Life happens. Hang on 1 second.
I'm so sorry.
No need to apologize. So, Angela, what have you learned about the human condition through your work as a psychotherapist, and that you believe that the world desperately needs to hear?
I think from sitting with clients, but also from my own training and my own perspective, I think sometimes people don't slow down. I think we live in such a fast-paced world and everything is constant. If it's the clickbait or if it's like constantly scrolling or it's like thinking constantly ahead. That's why I feel like people are always projecting ahead. Anytime I sit with somebody, it's always like the future. Or looking back at the past. There's very little in the present moment. And that seems to be a collective from what I've experienced. People very rarely stop and actually think about the now, what they have right now. And I have been guilty of that myself on many occasions. So there's no judgment there. I think it's just part of our thing. It's like the next best thing. What are we doing? But it's always looking and thinking ahead. And I think that's what causes a lot of anxiety for people and a lot of fears, because we're constantly looking ahead. Ahead is the unknown, right? Because we don't know what's coming. And as a result of that, that in itself can make us anxious. So what I always have to do, and I have to do it for myself, and I also talk to the clients, I ask them to concentrate on the now, what's right, what they have right now, where they can actually work with on this present moment and deal with this present moment without looking to tomorrow, without looking too far back. Sometimes we have to look back in order to heal the present. But in terms, outside of my client work, in general, what I feel is that people are not staying present. And that's the biggest issue for a lot of people, is they don't stop and appreciate what's happening right now. If they just stop and go, oh my goodness, where am I right now? And it may not always be perfect, and it may not always be the nicest space that they're in that moment. So it's okay to have a bit of hope. But it is, I think we're just not present enough. And I think we're set up that way in society, online, in person, not to be able to be present. It's almost like we're being robbed of that. It's like, constantly. We're being sold things all the time. We're being influenced a lot. There's a lot going on. Each has its part and its place in the world. And I'm not knocking that. I'm saying each to your own. But I think as a result of that, people don't get to stop and think about what they actually want, what they're actually feeling, and kind of checking in with themselves and going to bed at night and the mind is racing about everything else, rather than, where are you right now? What does that feel like for you? What are you grateful for in this moment? And finding gratitude is a big part of my daily practice, because I think when you are grateful, you're not in fear. And when you're grateful, you're concentrating on what you have in that moment. And I have a lot to be grateful for. Things might happen around me, but I have a roof over my head. I have my children healthy and well, and I'm healthy. And I always try and remind myself of that. So it's just simple things. And what I've learned is, it is not about grand gestures. It's not about massive materialism. It's not about those things that make you or help you. It is about the core people around you. And that is your family. And that may be your children, your partner, your siblings, your parents, whoever that may be to you. Your family might be your best friend. It might not be somebody that was born into your life, but it's those core people in your life. That's what enriches your life. That's what makes you happy. You can have all the money in the world. You can have all the things, the fame and fortune. But if you don't have those people, that real connection with those people that genuinely care about you and you about them, I feel like you're missing something then. There has to be an element of lack. And I don't want to assume, because I'm sure there's plenty of people that have plenty and don't feel those things. But I think as a collective, it is something that we need. It's connection, and that important connection with the people that love you and that you love, because that's all that matters in the end. You can't bring your house, which you can't bring everything, but you can. It's that love at the very end. That's what I always think about at times, that connection.
Yeah, you never see a hearse pulling a U-Haul. You never see a U-Haul pulled behind a hearse. You can't take any of that shit with you.
No.
And it's a daily practice of staying in the present moment and being grateful. You have to continually practice that, and it will shift your life. If you get into that practice and continue on that path, it will help you so much.
Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah. As someone who holds space for others who are healing, how do you hold space for your own pain and healing when you're taking on shit from everyone else around you, from your clients? And not that it's shit, but you're taking on a lot of other people's things. So how do you create that space for you?
I walk every day. So for me, I will listen to a podcast. I will walk at least for 40 minutes every day for myself. And I find that helps me. And also breath work has become something that I'm finding incredible, because as they say, it's work. But when you're working with your breath and following that pattern, you have to concentrate on that. You can't veer. Whereas I find I love meditation, but with meditation, my mind will wander and it'll bring me to many different places and I'll get uncomfortable at times. But with breath work, you have to concentrate so much on the breath that all you're doing is that. So in the end, your mind is free and you have this clarity, and it's a way of tapping into the unconscious mind, a part where we don't always have access to. And sometimes it's in that unconscious space where we find our answers to questions we may have had, or something that may have been troubling us, or whatever needs to come to the surface. With breath work, it will come to the surface. So I'm a big believer in the somatic work as well as the talk therapy. I think all of that brings about the greater balance, not just one over the other, a mixture. I'm all for a mixture of ways to ground and to find that inner peace. And breathwork does that. It is the most natural way to feel amazing, to feel at peace, and people, if they haven't tried it, I would really encourage it. Even listen to something online, follow the pattern, and it's incredible. You feel euphoric. It's unbelievable. I have been told by friends, some of whom you know, that have done the ayahuasca experience and plant medicine.
Yep.
And they have said they have had similar experiences without the side effects or without the purging with breath work. So I haven't done the ayahuasca experience, but I've done the breath work experience, and it's something you can do at home on your own. So that for me is a way of bringing peace and joy and clarity into my life. And it's also releasing trauma in the body, what we store. It allows you to kind of feel where it is and to kind of push it out almost. So I would really, that's what I do for myself. That's the gift I give myself, is breathing. And when we pay attention to our breath, it reminds us of that we are alive. It brings us to the present moment. And it's all about bringing back to the present moment. Everything I do is always trying to bring myself back to being present, because if I'm present, then I'm living in the now. I'm not worried about what's to come.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that we take breathing and breath for granted. We don't practice it. And I think a lot of people don't even know how to breathe properly.
I was one of them.
And don't pay attention to that. Yeah, I think we all go through that.
Yeah.
Until you learn about breath work, I think we're all going through that. Now you said you love bringing in multiple modalities, talk therapy, breath work. Do you practice breath work with your clients as well? Is that something that you bring in?
Yes, I have with some of my clients that are open to it. And I've also brought them into meditation and allowing and asking them to feel where they're feeling maybe anxiety in their body, or wherever that may be for them. I really want my clients to connect with their bodies, because if you can connect with your body, there's a lot of healing that can happen alone with that. And sometimes I will pick up my own clients' feelings, whether that'll be a knot in the stomach, or when you're in that space, you can often absorb what they're feeling. So you can instinctively talk to them about that. I wonder, are you feeling something in your stomach right now? And then they'll be able to say, actually, I am. So it's about not assuming anything. It's about asking them, helping them find their way without forcing or without imposing or without suggesting. It's always about the client's needs and where they're at, and meeting them where they're at. But absolutely breath work and all of that.
I love that. I think it's so important. And I think we need more of that in the world in terms of healing and medicine and all of these things. Let's combine forces, Eastern medicine methods with Western medicine methods. I see if we could have a world where that was existent on every facet, how powerful would that be? I understand that there are people that just don't subscribe to it. They don't believe in it. They can't get behind it, and that's okay. But if we can bring more of that together into the worlds of therapy, into the world of medicine, where we're working together to help and give, because really when it comes down to it, it's about the patient's experience.
Absolutely.
And them getting the benefit of a very well-rounded session, which is what you provide. I think it's amazing.
Yeah, and to be fair, it's really encouraged in Ireland. I talk to your clients about meditation, about breath work, all of that, really get them to connect with themselves. So it is wonderful that there's a real understanding of those benefits, because it makes the job more enjoyable, and it means that you're getting results.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And the client is getting results.
And that's the most important piece. That's what it's all for, is the client. So I love that. Now, how has being a psychotherapist influenced your own personal growth and self-awareness, would you say?
I've had to be more self-aware. Part of the training means that I have to be in therapy myself and under clinical supervision, which means that you're always testing yourself, but you're always being tested as well by your supervisor. If something comes up, your supervisor will say, okay, where's this coming from? What's the basis of that? It's always been kind of questioning yourself and looking at what's this doing? What's this doing to me? What's this about? Why am I feeling the way I'm feeling? So it made me and has made me more aware and more patient and more grounded as a result of the training. And I have to be. I can't not be grounded. If you're not grounded and you're sitting in a space with somebody that needs your support, they can sense that, they can feel it. So you have to be anchored. So if they're not anchored, they can lean on that support that you're giving to them. And it's unspoken, but it's there. It's in that room. So for me, it's all about making sure that I'm the healthiest I can be to do the work that I'm doing. And that means regular therapy and supervision. And also, as I say, doing the self-care practices, practicing what I preach. I can't expect clients to do it if I'm not willing to do it. And I need to know it works. And for me, it goes back to why I chose therapy, because I noticed it actually works. I couldn't believe it. I was like, I've been doing it for years, but the evidence really presented itself a few years ago. And I went, how? This actually does work. I can see it. It was like in real time, I could see it to believe it. And then I knew, because if I could believe it, I could do it. And it was going to make a difference. And that's what I know. Psychotherapy makes a difference. I wholeheartedly know it because it's made a difference in my life.
I love it. You are living through the experience of being on the other side of that. So I think that's amazing. Now, in the work you do in the field of mental health, have you seen personally a notable shift in mental health and bringing it to the forefront to get more exposure for the issues around and in mental health since you first started to where we are now? Absolutely.
I started before COVID with my training. And absolutely, I think actually because of the timeline around COVID and the significance, the impact of people's mental health, I don't know, in Ireland, it was really significant. And there was so much work done to highlight the impact that this was having on people's mental health. So as I was going on my journey through my training, I could see it evolving, and it's so well spoken about in Ireland. The work that that has been done to highlight mental health, the impact in this country. To be fair, I would say it's doing what it needs to do. It's helping people. There's more awareness. People are openly talking about it. There used to be the element of stigma. Oh, you're going to therapy? I've never felt that way. I was always very open about it. But I've noticed more and more people are now open about it, but not just my generation. What would have been my parents' generation, hearing somebody recently tell me that they were going to see a psychotherapist. And I was delighted because this person was in their 70s and that generation would not have been as forthcoming. I don't want to blanket everybody at the same thing, but I just know from speaking to family, friends and so on, that it wouldn't have been something they would have been comfortable with because it would have been frowned upon. It would have been something...
The shame associated with it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. There was too much shame associated with it. You need help. Whereas now I can really see it. And I think the advertising campaign, all of those various projects that have happened around mental health and the awareness that has been created in the last number of years. And as I say, particularly around COVID, I think it just highlighted for people, it's actually not embarrassing. It's not something to be ashamed of. It really takes strength to go and actually say, I need to go and see a psychotherapist or a psychologist or whoever. And that's a really strong person to admit that and to go and seek help. Yeah. So I think the message in the radio station I work for, we have regular therapists that come on, psychologists, the weekends, same, it's across the board. Regular slots. There's a reason, and not just in our station, but in multiple stations, they have this. So I think that in itself brings that awareness. And it's like people can ring in or text in or email if they have questions. So I think it's opening up that dialogue that it's a safe space and that it's okay to not be okay. And that is really a big message in this country. It's okay not to be okay. And that would have been something that would have been highlighted. And I think that gives people permission then to seek help when they need it. And there's nothing to be ashamed of. And they really see that.
For sure. I think there's still a fair bit of work to do around normalizing it, we'll say, and bringing it to the forefront. So in your opinion, we have made progress for sure. There's no doubt about it. You've just given examples where it proves and shows progress. But in your opinion, how do you think that we start to make bigger strides with this and bring even more awareness to the mental health crisis?
I think it is happening, particularly online. You see it a lot. People posting all the time, talking about their mental health and being quite vocal about it. That's where I would really praise a lot of influencers online because they're vocal. They're talking about when they're not feeling okay. And I've seen a lot of those reels and where people are talking about their feelings. And I think that in itself is progress. If you're able to sit there and talk about, I'm not feeling okay, I'm feeling down, or whatever that may be, and sharing it online, if that feels comfortable for a person. I'm not suggesting that, but I've seen that. I'm suggesting if you're not feeling okay, to talk to a professional, of course, and seek help, and whether that be from a family or a professional. But I think the awareness in Ireland, as I say, it is happening. It's happening across the board. I see it in the media. Once people are talking and feeling that they can discuss their mental health, that's progress. And
Yes.
I'm bombarded with it. I see it all the time. There's a Darkness into Light that will take place next month in this country. And that is where people walk from the darkness into light. And that will raise funds for Pieta House, which is for people who have lost somebody, die by suicide. And they counsel people that may be experiencing suicidal thoughts or tendencies, and also help support families. And the whole country will get behind this. All age groups will get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and they will walk from darkness into light. And I think it's incredible. And that's massive. You'll see it across social media. You'll see it everywhere. And though they're highlighting the need to talk to somebody. So we see many of these fundraisers and talks and all of it all the time is focusing on mental health. Years ago, I was doing it here before COVID, well before then, standing on stages and talking about the importance of looking after your mental health with various organizations. Yeah. And we would have packed audiences there of all age groups, and they would come up afterwards. We would share different stories. And that's what it's about, sharing your stories, sharing experiences, what it means for you when you've had to come through something. And when we share our stories, we automatically give permission to others to do the same. And that's what will happen. Yes. They will come up afterwards and say, I want to tell you what happened to me. I'd like to share my story with you. And they feel safe because you've been vulnerable. You've stood up there and you've been strong, but you've told them your story, and they connect with that. And then they too can pass it on. And they say, actually, this happened to me or that. And when people can speak their truth and speak what's on their mind and release something that they might have been holding back, and suddenly they're talking about it, the healing that can come with that is huge. So it's powerful. So I think more talking, more online, but more in person, more mental health awareness days, all of those things. As I say, the media definitely are doing different campaigns. There's different things all the time that I see. But I think into schools, particularly, because I think it starts with the young people. As a mother as well, I think it's hugely important to talk about how you might not be okay, and my anxiety. A lot of children are quite anxious. So to go in and talk about that, I think that's hugely important. I think start when we're young to discuss these things. And I think it does make a difference.
For sure. Do you think that, as you mentioned, the media is playing a big role, and they hold, I think that they're a very important piece of that puzzle with getting the word out there and creating and helping to shape these narratives. Do you think, or is there anywhere that you've seen that the media is falling short, where they could maybe put some more behind it?
Yeah, I'm not so sure. Maybe more shows, maybe platforms for people to talk openly and have discussions about how they're feeling. A lot of, maybe for young people, it's interesting because I would see more so social media itself has a role to play. I think there's positives to having social media, absolutely, but there's also that negative impact it can have. And I see there is some social media changes happening now for teenagers, even not allowed to go live. Yeah. I like those changes as a parent. I think it's good, but I think they're inundated by filtered lifestyles. Everything is filtered now. I think we need to get rid of those, particularly for teenagers. Get rid of the filters. Let's see real life. I think people need to see what it's like to look human without fake filter, and the people don't even look like themselves. And I think that puts pressure on young people more than anything. I think they're inundated. So I think for young people in particular, that's where I'd like to see some changes across social media, and that they wouldn't be allowed filters, that it would have to be, this is me, this is how I am, and this is what you see. Because I think there's nothing wrong with being seen and being who you are. You're young, you're a teenager, and giving them permission to be themselves and to be okay with themselves. I think that's hugely important. That's where I would like to look at, if there was anything to change, that's where I would see it.
Okay. Now, what stigma around mental health do you believe is one of the most dangerous, and how do you actively work to dismantle that?
Yeah, I've seen it with mothers more with fears. If a mother isn't feeling 100%, I've had some experiences where a mother might feel that her children might be taken from her, or there might be some investigations or whatever if they're not feeling well, which isn't the case. If a mother in this country is not feeling well, the system does rally around and support the family. And the child obviously comes first, or children comes first, and it's always children first. But I think there is that fear, and it is something that I would say to clients, particularly parents, it's okay for you to talk about stuff in this space. It's okay for you to have a bad day. Obviously, if there's a disclosure of abuse to a child or something like that, then that changes everything. But everything is happening in the contract staging, where I talk to the client and explain to them, if there's a disclosure of abuse, we have to report that. So they're well informed at the start. As I say, the children always have to come first, no matter what. It's our job, it's our ethics. We have to protect children. But if a mother is saying, I'm having a bad day, or I had a lie-in, or I gave my kids takeaway this week or something, they might feel judged. They might think, I did. And I'm like, that's what you met with this week. That was the best thing for you this week because it allowed you to get through the week. You weren't able to cook. Kind of reminding them that sometimes those things are okay. That's not being abusive. That's just you managed as best as you could this week to meet them where they're at and to kind of reassure them around that. Because I think as mothers in particular, they always feel judged no matter what. They have a guilt complex about everything. Sure. They go to bed at night, and I've done it myself, where you think, I didn't do enough that day for my child, or I didn't do this. And you could be going on forever. So I always say, you're doing the best that you can do in the situation that you've been given right now. And it's about recognizing that and trying to help them reword something or look at it from a different angle. My child did get fed this week, and I did get my child to school this week. It may not have been a home cooked meal, but it was still food. I'll work to do that next week. So it's just about guilt. I find with mothers in particular, they deal with a lot of guilt, a lot of challenges as a parent for them. So that's where I try to reassure them and kind of do that part, because I think it is hard. It is hard being a parent. We do our best, and sometimes we think it's never enough.
Well, that's all we can do. Yeah, of course. Absolutely. Parenting is the toughest job in the world. And we are hardest on ourselves. So it's having someone there to remind them that, no, you're not a bad parent. It's okay. We all have tough days, and it's okay to have them.
Absolutely.
You're still showing up for your kid, and that's what's important. So thank you for sharing that. Now, as mentioned at the beginning of the interview, you are also a best-selling author. Can you tell us about the book you wrote? What was it about? How long did it take you to write the book? And what was that experience for you, like putting your story out into the world?
I wrote my book in 2012. I had to think about that.
Wow.
Yeah. I can't believe it. I only thought of that the other day. The years just seem to have passed in a blur in a weird way, because so much has happened. I was pregnant at the time with Stephen, my firstborn, and a journalist had contacted me asking, could I help her? She was writing a book at the time and wanted to include a part about my sister Lisa, along with some other women in Ireland that had been murdered. I said at the time, I was working in a newspaper, I was a journalist, and I said, God, if anyone's going to write a story about my sister, it's going to be me. I'm going to write it. Now, obviously, I said it in a very nice way. She got it. She was another journalist, and a brilliant journalist. And she said, no, I get that. And she goes, I love that you want to do this. And I went like, I don't know if I want to do it. I just kind of feel at the moment my hand is kind of twisted a little bit, because if I don't, and I think the impression I got was if I didn't, somebody else would. And I wanted to have that power to write my sister's story, but also to write my memoir. And at that time, she introduced me to publishers. So I met with the original publishers, but we had a different idea of what way my book would be. And they had a great vision, don't get me wrong, but the vision didn't match my vision. And in the end, we decided to part ways in a very amicable way and a very respectful way. And they were really helpful to me. And then my publisher found me through another publisher that I knew, who has since passed, a lovely man. He connected me with a man called Liam Hayes. And this was my publisher. And Liam got my story because Liam has shared his own story, and he's an incredible story himself. So Liam became my publisher, his company, and my editor. And he was the right person for me because he got it. I wrote it over a 10-month period while I was pregnant. I set aside every Friday to write because I worked in the newspaper up until then, and Friday I was off. And so I would sit down at the kitchen table and I would write up until lunchtime. That was it. I would start and I would make sure I wrote maybe 3,000 words, whatever that might be. I would give myself a word count and a deadline, and I would finish by lunchtime, and then I wouldn't touch it again. And then I was free from it. And then it just came around. It was funny when Liam found me. What happened was he said to me, so we probably got about a year before we finished the book and everything else. And I said, no, it's finished. And he said, what do you mean? I said, it's done. It's finished. I have it here. And he said, you have it. You finished it. And he looked at it and he said, okay, about 3 months. And then I went, oh, 3 months? I'm not sure I'm ready. It felt really, all of a sudden, it felt huge. And my son was a few months old at the time. And I think, I wasn't thinking. I wanted to write my book, and I wanted to write, to honor Lisa, my sister, write this memoir that I didn't want it to be a crime book. So I wanted it to be a memoir, and Liam wanted it to be a memoir too. And so he got it. He didn't want to change anything. He didn't change anything. And it was kind of a tribute to my sister. And then I wanted to release it into the world so people would have it and it would be there forevermore. But I didn't realize that I didn't want to actually publicize it. And I didn't want the attention that came with it. And that was the difficult part for me, was actually the attention at the time. I think it was quite raw still for me. I was still grieving. Yeah. And it was probably, when I look back now, too much too soon maybe. But I don't regret it, and I'm glad I did it, because I don't think if I sat down now I would do it in a weird way. I think at the time I needed to do it. I needed to do it for me, and I needed to do it for Lisa. But so much has happened in my life since then, I'm not sure. But I did. We have our main TV talk show here, The Late Show. It's huge. I was a guest on that. There was a lot of press at the time around it. I didn't do a few different shows and kind of dug my heels in a little bit, but my editor, they were great. They were like, look, we get it. And most editors wouldn't, publishers, they were like, it's in your contract. But to be fair, they met me where I was at and where I wasn't up to publicity. Sometimes now I would be the difference. It now wouldn't bother me at all. Jesus, I'm in the thick of it most of the time. But back then it just felt all of a sudden the spotlight was on me, and I wasn't prepared in a way for that. It was kind of strange. I was going through my own stuff, dealing with everything with losing Lisa and coming and having a newborn and just trying to balance it all and find my way in the world. Yeah. And I felt under like a magnifying glass. I felt exposed. I felt, oh my God. And now everyone's reading what I wrote. In that moment, then I realized all my feelings, everything, it's raw, it's real, it's there. And it's out there. Yeah. And then I thought to myself, it's meant to be out there. And you know what? I wouldn't change a thing. I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't change one thing about it, because I know what that book has done now out in the world. Yeah. And I know the difference it has made. So I wouldn't change it at all. I've changed. I'm a different person. I'd want to be at this stage. But I'm writing again. And I think with this story, I think people will really, if people have read my first, I think they'll see the difference. I think that it'll be a journey. And I hope it makes a difference to people when that time comes. I hope they'll go, God, see where Angela is now. See what's happened now.
She's evolved. She's grown.
And I really hope that when the time comes, but we'll cross that bridge when it comes.
For those who don't know your story, can you share just a brief overview of the story of Lisa?
Yes. So Lisa was my little sister. She was the baby in the family, a family of 5. And Lisa, 15 years ago, Lisa was murdered by her fiance, who is in prison now. He pleaded guilty. He's up for parole this year. Could possibly be out in 3 years, because in Ireland, a life sentence, and this is what we'll get to later. I know, because you're going to ask me about SAVE, but SAVE. This is why that was started, was because when you look at the sentencing in Ireland, 17 years. That's when you read about. That's the media as well. I'm constantly trying to change the media around this and the wording on it. When you say they were given a life sentence in prison. That's always written, that they're going to serve a life sentence in prison.
Right.
This wording is not true. They're not serving a life sentence. And when I stood in that courtroom, I didn't realize that when my sister was killed 15 years ago. So I didn't cover court reporting. I wasn't a court journalist. I never encountered that. And then I'm standing there going, what do you mean it's not a life sentence? What do you mean it's 17 years? And 17 years is very little when you're at the other side.
Yeah, for sure.
When you're in my shoes and you're just getting your own life together. Or I've been lucky. I would consider myself very fortunate and blessed. But I know many other people that are not feeling what I'm feeling. And they are nowhere near in the healing or the journey that I'm in. And they're happy for me. But for them, they're like, I'm barely getting it together. And he could be out in 2 years. So Ireland's really small. You mean I'm going to be walking down the street and he's going to be, or it could be in the same shop. There's all of these different things. So the sentencing isn't great. So he is in prison. So Lisa, he could not give any reason. He just wanted to kill somebody. That was his reason. When you hear that, Lisa was planning on marrying this person. She wanted to marry. She was getting married the following June, as far as she was concerned. All the plans were in place. He was 31. She was 24. She was beautiful in every sense of the word. She had her whole life ahead of her. She was the most incredible, beautiful, kind person. And the amount of people that I didn't know Lisa knew until afterwards, and they would come up to me and say, I loved your sister. Her friend recently got married and she sent me pictures there on her wedding day. There was candles with Lisa's name. There was all this tribute to Lisa for this particular friend. And I just thought it was beautiful. And there's a lovely monument where we grew up that my lovely neighbours where we grew up put together with a plaque with Lisa. So people have always wanted to honour Lisa, because Lisa, even though she only lived for 24 years, she made such a difference in those 24 years. People loved her. Lisa would have done a lot for charity, would have done a lot of fundraising, would have been a real advocate herself. She was incredible, an incredible person. But somebody that he just wanted to know what it would be like to kill somebody. It wasn't necessarily Lisa. It could have been anybody. And
just somebody.
That's what he admitted in his letter. Yeah.
Wow. And so how did writing Loving Lisa transform your relationship with grief? And in what ways did it deepen your connection to your sister beyond the physical?
Yeah. So after Lisa was murdered, my biggest thing was my memories and my fear around that. I remember sitting there going, and that's what people might feel as well if they've lost somebody they love. I don't know, because I haven't really discussed it with many people, but this happened to me. I remember sitting there in my sister's back garden and going, oh my God, I'm trying to remember all the things that me and Lisa experienced together. We holiday together, we lived together, we did everything. We lived together as a child, but we lived together as adults. We did so much together. We were not just sisters, we were best friends. And I remember trying to even see her face, and like all of these, the trauma, trying to remember in that moment, because all I had was my memories. In that moment, it was like, I don't have Lisa anymore. So how am I going to capture everything that we've had? I'm trying to remember my sister. I was so traumatized. I couldn't even see her face. I couldn't picture it. The trauma was so shocking that I couldn't even think. I couldn't access a memory. My brain had shut down and it was so traumatized. So I knew I was going to write. At the time, it wasn't necessarily about writing a book. I know with this particular journalist, it was like, whether it ever sees the light of day or not, this will be a journey that I go on for myself. And it was very cathartic because it meant I was remembering things as I went along, and I was getting memories back and I was writing about them. And it was just a way of kind of capturing the feelings I had at that time for Lisa, but also the experience and what it did to me, and sharing in that experience. It was very cathartic. It did help. It helped my grief hugely because I was kind of forced to sit in it. Some people, when my mother died, I kind of buried it for 2 years with the feelings. I didn't deal with it. And with Lisa, when I started to write so soon afterwards, I created a scrapbook first. That's for only family and me. That's never been seen as such. The full details of it haven't been anyway. But that kind of thing I was doing for myself. I was doing everything to document how I was feeling. I wasn't going to run from my feelings, and I was going to run into them. And I knew the only way I could survive and get through it was actually going through it instead of running from it. And the sheer suffering and agony and pain of that, horrendous at times. I'd go to sleep crying and I'd wake up crying. I think you'd think the dreams were an escape. The dreams weren't an escape. I'd be crying in my dreams. And then I'd be waking up and I'd be crying. So the pain didn't, like people say, oh God, nighttime can be an escape. It wasn't an escape for me. It was just part of that process. But because I kept going, digging deep into that suffering and letting it and allowing it through me, it made a massive difference. It made a massive difference to me. And I think that's why my own journey, I poured it into projects. I kept pouring all of the energy I had, all that grief, everything into Lisa's memory. And whether it was talks, whether it was wellness sites, whatever, it was all about creating that space for healing through my. And that's how I did it, because I felt this is the best way to do it. Because if I don't do this, then I'm going to go the other way. And something good is not going to come out of this pain if I don't channel it into something good. So I knew, because of the enormity of it, because of the shock, because of the trauma, that this is going to get me if I don't deal with it. And I needed to deal with it. And I wanted to do it in the most healthy way, because I know it could go, pain like that, people don't want to touch it because it's so painful. And I know, because it can cripple you, that pain. But actually, you've already felt it. We just forgot the shock. So I kept on thinking, I've survived it already. I can survive it. I can keep surviving it. I just keep going into it. And some days I would sit there and then I'd realize Lisa's gone. And then I'd realize what was after happening. The brain is funny that way. It'll protect you in ways. Yeah. Kind of dull it out. And then it'll hit you all of a sudden, the reality of what's after happening and how huge that loss is and the enormity of it and the trauma of it. And at the same time, then I let it come true and then I let it pass. And I don't want to numb it anymore. I never wanted to numb it anyway, but I think I became a bit of a workaholic after it as well, which is a form of numbing. But I go, okay, let me just sit here, and I don't distract myself. I go, what do I need to feel? And then I let myself feel it. And when I do, the more I've done that, the more I now have Angela back. This part of me that had been lost for so long, since that day, when that day that Lisa was murdered, part of me absolutely went with her. And I missed that part of me. I missed that Angela. I missed that vibrancy, that freedom, that kind of wildness, but not wild in a bad, bold way, but wild in a free way. Yeah. And now I feel, particularly in the last year, that has come back. Those glimpses of myself have come back. And that is because I've sat with the pain. That is because I've leaned into it. I haven't run away from it. I've challenged it at times. And I think if you can, I'd say do that. Because a lot of the time people are escaping under stuff to keep them numb. And a lot of that time it's based on the reason they're doing that is because they don't want to. It's not that they're addicted to a substance. It's not because they like it. It's because they don't want to feel what that feeling is that they're running from, because it's quite painful. As I say, sometimes pain is worse than the painkiller. So I was like, if you can connect with that pain, it's amazing the healing that can come.
I love it. If loving Lisa could change one thing in the world, what would you hope that impact would be?
Somebody said to me recently, they came up to me and they just said, I want to thank you. And I said, why? For writing your book. And I said, okay. And I said, this was a few years ago. This person only came up to me recently. And I said, okay. And I said, why? Was there something in particular? And she said to me, after I read your book, I left a relationship because I realized by reading your book that my life was actually going in that same direction, that I may not be here today. And it was actually the power of your words and the journey you brought me on. It made me have the strength. It gave me the strength, gave me the courage and the clarity that I needed to make that decision. She gave me a big hug. And I just thought, God, I don't realize sometimes by doing that what it has. And I've heard a few kind of different variations of that it has had similar kind of different stories, maybe not as strong as that one, but it's made a difference for people. Someone said it gave them the courage it helped them get through divorce. Because they read my book and they thought, she can get through this, I can get through this. So it gave this particular person that. So when I hear that my book has done that for people, I think I'm so grateful, because That's what I wanted it to have for Lisa's, my sister's memory, because Lisa was all about the good of others. She wanted the best for everybody. She saw the good in everybody, and unfortunately, even in the good in that person. But that's what I wanted. I wanted Lisa's essence to come through the book. And if people were getting that reaction or getting that clarity or getting that being brought on a journey, but also realizing that they are so strong, then that's Lisa's essence coming through. And then I've done what I needed to do. And that's exactly what I set out to do, was to make a difference for other people.
Beautiful. I love it. Now I want to dive into SAVE, as you mentioned. Can you tell us about SAVE? What does SAVE stand for? How and why did you get involved with SAVE? And how long has it been in existence? And what's next for SAVE?
SAVE it stands for Sentencing and Victim Equality. And basically it was set up by a group of us from families that have been impacted by murder. Our chairperson, John Whelan, John won't mind me mentioning his name. John had actually said it to me. John had been on the Late Show at the time, and I'd contacted him about his own journey. I was familiar with his story. He lost his sister and his two nieces on Christmas Day, which is just shocking. And at the time, John had said, I need to do something. We need to look at the sentencing in this country. We also need to look at the parole bill, how it works. And I said to John, I know two other people. Would you believe one person that lives up the road from me who's lost her two children, another woman that lives not too far from here who's lost her daughter. Oh, it was really interesting. We all got together, and then John had different people at different parts of the country, and we met. I was pregnant at the time, heavily pregnant. So we're looking at 7 years ago when we started, and we sat in a hotel, and it was funny because we were all sitting in the lobby of this hotel, and if anyone had looked at us that day, we all had their tea or scones. Everyone looked immaculate and brilliant, and we were all animated and we were all talking, and we kind of laughed afterwards, and we said, if anyone thought, if they looked over at us, they would never think for a second that what we're talking about is murder. When we weren't laughing at murder. We're laughing at the fact that people would think, here's a bunch of like normal people, because we all look really happy and animated, and we're all really close, and we've got a bond. But at the same time, if they peeked in closer or got a little bit closer, they would realize the enormity of what we were talking about, and also what we were planning. And we started with the planning with the parole bill. Initially in Ireland, it was 7 years where you could apply for parole after you murdered somebody. That has since been changed because of our work, not just our work. I can't just take all the credit from SAFE, obviously being a big advocate of it, but there are a number of other organisations as well. And politicians obviously played a role as well. And using our voices and marching and protesting. And that changed from 7 to 12 years. But it didn't change for our cases. Whatever our cases, that was not going to change. And we knew when we started that it was what the work we were doing was not for us anymore, because our family's killers, we couldn't change their parole. We couldn't change their sentencing. That can't be changed. We were only using our voices for the next people that were going to come. So everything we were doing,
which is amazing.
But that's what happens, because you know what it's like. You don't want anybody else to go through all the steps we had to go through. And we felt very alone in this at times in the system, and shocking, even having to write impact statements and so on. And what we've also changed is being part of the change is that now families can sit in front of the parole board in this country. Before you could just write a letter. Now we actually meet the parole board, whereas before it was just the perpetrator. Now they would sit in front and plead their case, and we would just have a letter, and they would just read our letter. They felt, and I'm sure they definitely read our letters. I don't want to assume different. Of course they did, but that is not the same as sitting in front of a board and having them see the humans that are behind the impact.
Yeah, humanizing it.
Humanizing it.
Absolutely.
So now that has been changed because of a lot of our work. Next will be the sentencing. And we will look at, because I often wonder, if you look at the sentencing in the country and you think, look, it could be out in 15 years. I could do that. Was that what they're thinking? Where's the deterrent in that?
Yeah.
You need to put deterrents in place. And I wholeheartedly believe if you put a stronger, longer sentencing there, then people, I'd like to believe that they might think twice before they make that decision. I don't know. I can't. I would hope. That would be at least there would be the deterrent, but never mind the fact, just a deterrent, that then they're at least are locked up, and for a long time, that they give the family a chance to actually come to terms. Coming to terms with murder is not coming to terms with normal grief. You don't really come to terms with it. For me, I'm of the understanding that in a few years I'll be looking over my shoulder. I live in a small country. Will I have to look over my shoulder at nighttime? Those things. So we want other families to have a longer time where they can actually come to terms. So the sentencing is the next thing. And we were told that this wouldn't happen in our lifetime. But this is now going to happen in our lifetime. It's already coming through different processes. It's not written in stone yet, but the longer sentencing is being looked at. So it is happening. So SAVE, along with a few other organisations, to be fair, have made a massive impact. You look at just 6 of us, really.
That's incredible.
But now that's grown collectively across the country. We've branches everywhere. Phenomenal. People coming from. We're all supporting each other. We're like, it's a big family of people and we know what it's like. We know a suffering and a pain that we would never want other people to understand or know. And that's kind of where we come from. If you said, you couldn't possibly understand where I come from, we don't want you to understand where we come from. And that's the reality. Definitely not. And that's why we all feel so deeply for each other, because we know only too well what it's like. And we want to be able to support people. When Lisa was murdered, I didn't know where to go, who to turn to. I was lucky that a therapist found me through Support After Homicide, which is an organisation that offered 2 years of free counselling. And Rita was my counsellor, incredible woman, 2 years of counselling. But there's other stuff that you need help with as well, not just counselling. And those things, more is needed. But look, it's changing, it's grown, and we're playing our part in that.
I think that's incredible. You should be very proud of what you've accomplished and what you've helped future people that go through this type of thing. I think it's absolutely amazing. It's completely selfless and beautiful, the work that you guys are doing. So thank you for sharing about that.
Oh, thank you.
What is one message you want women to walk away with after hearing your story?
That if you are in a relationship, and particularly now we know a lot more about coercive control. There wasn't a lot of information 15 years ago around that. And it's now against the law, which is really good. So if someone is controlling another person coercively, they don't have to lay a hand on them and they're still breaking the law, which I'm so thankful for that is now a law in this country to protect women and men, because I don't think it's just women. I think men suffer too. I don't even want to just put a gender on it. I think it's a collective. People are suffering, and it's not just females. But I know this is about women in particular, our journey here. I want women to know that if they're in a situation and they're not happy or they don't feel safe, that there is help out there. There are different organisations that will help you. There's many women's organisations, refuges, all of that, particularly in our country here. And I'd imagine everywhere across the globe. I know this is globe, but you're not alone. And I want women to share their story. Like if somebody is suffering, and shame comes with suffering. I wonder sometimes if a woman is in a relationship and they're feeling like it's their fault, or that it must be their fault if they're in an abusive relationship or a controlling relationship. So they don't want to share it because they're embarrassed. And then that comes with guilt if they share. I want them, if they're suffering, to find that person you can trust. Make sure it's a person you can trust, really trust, and tell them. If you share that, it's amazing. It's amazing what can come out of sharing. And I would have loved more sharing. Obviously, I can't change my situation, but I would say to people, tell somebody. Don't stay there. Don't suffer alone. Because if somebody is in an abusive relationship and they're continuing to be abused, it's not going to get any better. It's not suddenly going to stop. No. It might stop for a short length of time, but ultimately it's not going to end, and it's not going to end well. It's not going to end well for you, more than likely, if you were in a relationship that you were suffering and you're being abused. And I promise you, if you do get the help and you do get out of there, do it safely, because that's where it can be quite dangerous for people when they're leaving a domestic situation or an abusive relationship. It can be quite dangerous for that person in the leaving period. So it has to be done with backup and safety. And I know here in this country that there is a lot of support to do that if with our Gardaí, which is your police.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that can rally around and actually help a person leave safely. And I would say it has to be done safely. Don't just say, you have to do it. But there's steps.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, Brad, you share those steps probably on your, when you're sharing. There are many steps to take.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't, stay there, but do it safely and follow those steps, follow that guidance to do it right, to get out of that relationship, because you need to stay safe even if you're leaving. But I wouldn't stay there, because I'm thinking, how is that a life? How is that really the life you deserve? How really where you need to be for the rest of your life, suffering for what? For who? For somebody else's what? Kicks when they're pleasure, or when they're hurting or harming you? No, you deserve better. And if you don't think you deserve better, it's because they've made you believe that. But I'm telling you now, no one deserves to be ill-treated. No one deserves to be suffering in a relationship. Get out. You deserve better than that, but do it right. Do it safely for yourself.
Thank you, Angela. What does the word empowerment mean to you?
Empowerment means, I think for me, it's sharing and uplifting other people. I think that's where I get my joy. If I see somebody in my life doing well, I'll always praise other people. Somebody says to me, gosh, will you help me out? I need to land something here. I'm trying to get, and I can't, I'm excited to help that person. I want to see people do well. I genuinely want them to shine. One of my work colleagues said to me recently, she was giving a big talk and she was texting me, she goes, Angela, and I was like, no, you're not going to be an imposter now to yourself. You're going to be amazing, shine. And I said to her afterwards, I said, how was it? She goes, you were right. It was amazing. I'm like, because you're amazing. That's what it's about. And I see with my friend Karen as well. Karen loves celebrating her, and she celebrates me. I'm blessed with so many wonderful friends, and I'm blessed with Stephen, my husband, and all these different people around that we champion each other. My way in life is, I just want to see other people happy. I want to see, you can see somebody experiencing joy and you're in their presence, then you automatically feel that joy too. And that's what it's about, isn't it? Kind of celebrating other people and giving people a boost. By God, people need a lift in this world. And if we can do that for each other, then I think that's what it's about.
That's what life's about.
Yeah.
Yes, 100. I agree with you 1000%. That's what life's about. We're here to support, lift, and cheerlead each other.
Absolutely.
If you had the opportunity to sit down and have a 1-hour conversation with one woman, any woman in the world, who would it be and why?
It would be my mother. It would be my mother. And the reason is my mother she died 22 years ago. And there's so many things I want to say to her now. I want to talk to her about my children because I didn't have children. I want to ask her various questions, and stuff about me that I never thought was important as a child. But now I want to know more about me as a child. I want to ask her about those things. And my father's dead too, so I can't even ask him. There's those kind of things where I just want to say, Mammy. But also, I get it now. I appreciate her so much more now. I appreciate my mother anyway. I loved my mother. She was amazing. So kind, so caring. But I want to say to her, I get it. I get it now with the kids. I understand. And how did you do it with all of
being
us?
a parent yourself?
Yeah. I just want to tell her how much I love her and appreciate her. And I want to really listen to her. When I was younger, it was all about Mary, I want this. Now I want to make it about her. I'd love to sit there for an hour and just hear her stories again. She did tell the best stories, and tell her how much she means to me, and just tell her I loved her, and thank her for bringing me into this world, and thank her for looking after me, and thank her for making me like her. I'm very like my mother. and I think my mother was a great person, and I know the way my children reflect back to me as a mother, how much I mean to them, what they tell me. They love I would have said the same to my mother, which tells me that I'm doing a good job, that she did a great job. So that's who I would love to speak to right now, is my own mother.
If you could go back and give your younger self one piece of advice, what would that piece of advice be?
That's a great question. That's a great question. I think I would love to tell that younger part of myself that you will lose yourself for a while and times will get tough, but you will find yourself again and it will get easier and you will find your joy and it'll come in different ways and you will climb that mountain. It won't be easy. It won't be the mountain you wanted to climb. It'll be a harder one, but you will get through it and you will be okay. And that your life will be beautiful in so many ways. And there will be peace, but you have to get through all of the other stuff first. And that will be tough. And I wish I had known that when I was going through it. But I think I did in my own way. But that's what I would tell.
Yeah.
I think that's what I would tell my younger self. I don't know. I think so.
Last question for you, Angela. If you were to deliver your last 30-second speech to the world, your corner of the world, your tribe, your people, what would that last 30 seconds sound like? What words of wisdom would you impart?
Oh, God. And I think I said it during my talk at your beautiful conference. I think what I would say to people is that don't live as if you'll never die, because when it comes to the time when you die, it'll be like you've never lived. So I want people to really stay where they are right now in this moment and capture it and be grateful for what they have right now. Instead of seeking and searching and always planning, just stay where you are right now. Just be present. As they say, what is that saying? The past is the whatever, or history. The future is a mystery. All we have right now is the present, which is the gift, right? So stay where you are in this moment, capture it, because we'll never have it again. It'll just become a distant memory. And we don't know what's coming there. Right now, by God, just appreciate it. Just take it for what it is and just be grateful for what it is. You're breathing. If you're here right now, you're existing, you're in breath. And pay attention to that breath and really recognize that this is all that matters in this moment, is that you're here, you're alive. You still got purpose. There's a reason for your existence. You are a child of God. You have a right to be here, just like everybody else. You are unique in this world. Your presence matters. It doesn't have to be on the grandest scale in this lifetime. You still matter just as much, no matter what. You have a right to be here. You belong here, and you deserve this too. You deserve all the joy in the world. That's what I would say to people. I don't know if that's 30 seconds though, Brett.
For you, that's okay. Beautiful, Angela. Thank you so much for being here today, for taking and making the time to be here with me today, sharing your story, your journey, and the beautiful light that you put out into the world through the work you do. It was an absolute pleasure and honor having the opportunity to sit and speak with you. So thank you for being here. I appreciate you, and I'm so grateful to call you a friend and have you as a member of the Empowerography community.
I'm so grateful too, Brad, because I'm normally on the other side, and I'm like you. I'm very comfortable at interviewing other people, but I'm not always the most comfortable at speaking about myself. And I think because I love hearing other people's stories, it's not always easy for me to share in mine. I can get very distracted in the middle of it, as I'm sure you found.
You did great. You did great.
But I'm grateful.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
Once again, my name is Brad Welsh, host of your Empowerography podcast. Today, my guest has been Angela Doyle Stuart. She is a broadcast journalist, a best-selling author, a psychotherapist, an advocate, an activist, an inspirational speaker, and also part of the advocacy group SAVE. Thank you so much, Angela. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for listening to this podcast. If you haven't yet, please be sure to subscribe, rate, review, and share with all your friends. You can find me at visuphoria.ca and follow me on Instagram at Empowerography Podcast and on Facebook at Empowerography. Please join me next time for another inspirational story from yet another amazing woman.